Is there a new Xenoblade yet? So I've spent a lot of years being critical of Game Pass, subtly and overtly, and despite hard evidence and official statements otherwise, I've continued to believe that it is not a sustainable business plan. This week, it happened. I'm finally right about Game Pass, but let's start at the very beginning of Game Pass. I had forgotten that when Xbox Game Pass first launched, Day One games were not a part of it. That year's E3 press conference happened 10 days after the Game Pass launch, and nobody even brought it up. I'm watching this thing and I'm wondering, why is nobody talking about Game Pass? So it wasn't until later that week, the Game Pass stuff was relegated to Xbox Daily Live at E3, in which we saw a strangely blurry Danny McBride commercial for Xbox Game Pass, and then Major Nelson interviewed Dennis Ceccarelli to explain the whole idea.
We've been so excited to bring Game Pass to the customers, bring Game Pass to the fans, and bring, more is better. Bring more to Game Pass, bring more to Xbox.
Now, I need to make something extremely clear to you, because I have been known to do such things. I didn't add that silly sound effect. That was part of the original broadcast. I can't explain it either.
More is better. Bring more to Game Pass.
Anyway, to introduce the value proposition of Game Pass to an entirely new audience, here's a simple analogy.
I asked people, how many documentaries have you bought in the last year? And inevitably, most people say, well, I haven't. How many documentaries have you watched on Netflix?
A lot.
Right? A lot. And it's one of those things where, hey, you know what? There's no barrier to entry to checking this out, so why not check it out? And if I love it, I'll continue. And if I don't, I can bail on it.
So, we got a lot of games on here that are like documentaries. It's a funny way to phrase it, but I do think there's some truth to that statement. Still, even in its earliest days, Game Pass was referred to as
the best value in gaming right now.
So it wasn't until January of the next year, we're talking 2018, that because Xbox had heard from fans that the ability to play new blockbuster games in Xbox Game Pass is important, meaning documentary level games are not going to cut it, all new Xbox One exclusive games from Microsoft Studios will be added to Game Pass on the same date as their global release. Huge announcement. Wow. That seemed big at the time. Now they're a part of the E3 stage.
Tom Clancy's The Division.
And then obviously Game Pass grew in importance from there. Do you remember that 2019 leaked email from Matt Booty? He said, Sony is really the only other player who could compete with Game Pass, and we have a 2-year and 10 million subs lead. If we reverse course on day and date, it's going to be hard to convince folks that things like Mixer or xCloud have much of a chance of surviving scrutiny either. And again, that was 2019. So yeah, by 2024, not only was Day One access to first-party titles a core part of the identity of Game Pass, it was also what it meant to be a part of Xbox. But coming into their big showcase this year, this being the first year after their acquisition of Activision, there was uncertainty. We wondered, will they add Call of Duty Day One to Game Pass? Are they sticking with that? And the answer was, yeah.
There are currently over 100 million people who play Call of Duty every month. We hope to grow that community by making Black Ops 6 the first Call of Duty game that will be available in Game Pass Day One.
1 month later, we have now learned they didn't really mean it. Because this week Xbox made some changes to the Game Pass tiers. The regular Game Pass tier, the regular one, the one where you would be getting Call of Duty Day One with Game Pass, they just suddenly deleted that. Here are the current plans today. If you're on PC, the first tab, you got PC and Ultimate. Ultimate adds, as you can see, console and cloud, and online console multiplayer. What a package. If you're on console today, you got Core and Ultimate. Ultimate we already talked about. What is Core? Core is basically not Game Pass. It's what Xbox Live Gold evolved into last year. It's essentially now what you pay to play online games. And instead of 2 free games a month, you get a curated catalog of high-quality games. And so mostly that was just a naming shift that served to both simplify and complicate Game Pass branding. There was an admittedly inconsequential bit from that tense official Xbox podcast where they announced multi-platform plans earlier this year. Sarah Bond, president of Xbox, said this.
So now the 34 million Game Pass members can all enjoy the fantastic experience of Diablo 4.
We all knew what she meant when she said Game Pass there, but that simply wasn't a true statement. They had to issue a correction. You see, there aren't 34 million Game Pass subscribers. There are 34 million Game Pass subscribers. If you're a Game Pass Core subscriber, you're not playing Diablo 4 for free. Sorry, buddy. Anyway, there's that tier missing here, right? The regular one. The weird thing is it still exists. It's a shadow tier. It's technically still called Game Pass Console. Anyone in that tier today will continue to receive day one games on Game Pass when they arrive. But anyone new or anyone who allows this shadow tier to lapse for 1 month, they will not have access to that. But they can invest in the upcoming third option, Game Pass Standard, $14.99 US a month. And it will basically include all of these check marks. You'll still get all that value, except no new games on day one. Sorry, customers, we're sick of being so damn generous. The gravy train is over. And the weird sick joke about this whole system is, let's say you are in that grandfathered tier that's just one below Ultimate, where you will get Call of Duty day one on Game Pass. If you want to play it online, you will have to pay for Game Pass Core, which is another $10 US. So you're wedged into, even if you don't have a PC, the optimal way for you to spend your money to get the most value is to choose Game Pass Ultimate. And that is what most people do. And that is why this is all so crazy, is that most Game Pass subscribers are already Ultimates. They already are. So really the goal here, on a week where they're raising prices across the board, seems to be, instead of adding value to their most expensive and popular tier, instead of adding anything to it, they are merely subtracting value from the cheaper tier. And look, like, a subscription service raising its prices is not newsworthy. However, Xbox sacrificing its favorite thing to say?
All of our games will go into Game Pass on day one.
All of our games are always in Game Pass.
That's just crazy. Going forward, now they have to say day one on Game Pass. Ultimate and PC, not Standard, but also, to be fair, the shadow tier you can no longer buy. This move seems so small and unnecessary, but it seems indicative of a scramble. It's like we all get to observe this enormous company and their clear, blatant lack of a plan. Now, could, hypothetically, there be a scenario where Call of Duty Black Ops 6 causes this massive surge in Game Pass Ultimate subscriptions, leading to Xbox finally disrupting the market, making them the de facto kings of the games biz that everyone else is clawing to keep up with? I guess. Yeah, sure. Until then, I'm right about Game Pass. And that's delayed input. I'll be back next week. Until then, thanks for watching. So in other dumb Xbox news, which you know I can't get enough of, there was another headline on The Verge this week titled, "No Xbox? No problem." If you're willing to subscribe to this website, you can read to the part of the article that suggests that Microsoft will be reeling back advertising spend in several countries in Europe and the Middle East and Asia in terms of consoles, while still marketing their controllers and xCloud and Game Pass. Basically, the international plan being that they're going to de-emphasize console sales. And honestly, not too surprising, it kind of makes sense. Most of this planet has realized and accepted that Xbox will never win. But I want to thank this article for pointing me to this brand new commercial for Xbox Game Pass on the Amazon Fire Stick. Here are 3 stupid things about that commercial. 1, it's a Scream reference, which I guess Scream is as relevant as ever, but in the context of this commercial, you have a woman who is getting harassed by a stranger into playing Xbox.
You know what? I think you have the wrong number. I'm gonna go.
There's an attempt at a comedic tag in the end, where it's revealed that this creepy voice is actually a female voice, as if to say, don't worry, it wasn't a guy being a creep.
What's like with the voice?
Oh, my voice. Is that better? So, wanna play?
Firstly, nobody laughed at that, but mostly it's just stupid. The fix here is so easy to me. You can have a creep. You can have somebody be like, you want to play a game? And then the person on the phone says, yeah, oh my God, yes, but I don't have an Xbox. You never had to make it creepy. You chose that. Number 2, the silhouettes are weak. Here's how the Xbox brand is presented. Vault Boy, Doom Guy, and Raz from Psychonauts 1 and 2. And also that Psychonauts VR game, but that is not on Game Pass. There's also this rabbit, and my best guess is that's a Pal World monster, but I'm not positive. My point is, you need iconic silhouettes to pull off this kind of thing, especially when this commercial is targeted towards people who do not have an Xbox. Who is saying, oh shit, is that Raz? 3, the little gameplay snippet. So this commercial features 1 total second of video game. And it's this portion from the most recent Fallout 76 expansion trailer. Now, I think Fallout 76 is actually a great pick. You have a successful series on Amazon. We're looking at an Amazon Fire Stick here, synergy. But what you see in this 1 second looks like shit. It's not even something you would identify as Fallout if you just watched the whole series. Clearly, they just picked 1 second from the media available to them, but I kind of feel like that should have been the most appealing part of the entire commercial. Look how much fun this is, and it was so easy to set up. Instead, the commercial's target is a person who doesn't own an Xbox, but does have an Xbox controller on her coffee table. She finds console games intimidating, so here are hundreds to choose from.
It's not a game. It's hundreds of Xbox games.
They're just so stupid for making this. It truly feels like so many years later, they just still don't know how to advertise Game Pass in an appealing way. If they're going to stick to just this message, they might as well just keep running that Danny McBride ad from 7 years ago.
Oh, give it to me.
Over 100 great games